Hi, it's the 25th of March, 2018 in New Zealand, and I'm wearing my gardening clothes. So there you go. I want to talk today about the, this idea that cesareans aren't a birth. When I gave birth in 1970, the cesarean rate was 4.5%. And those of us who had cesareans, we were incredibly grateful that this was available because the circumstances of our birth that had led to a cesarean was so extreme that a cesarean was really life-saving. And we were the first generation of women who wanted to try to have a vaginal birth after a cesarean, a trial of labor. So as the director of Common Knowledge Trust and the person who developed the Birthing Better skills with hundreds of families in the early 1970s, I actually know something about this switch in attitude about cesareans. Now, definitely the cesarean rate has skyrocketed. Why that is perceived of by different people in different ways. So from us as Birthing Better families, we'll be out front and tell you why we think the cesarean rate has skyrocketed. We just believe there's no societal expectation that any of us become skilled to birth our baby. And this is profound, and it has a profound influence on all of us. What are the common causes for cesarean? A failure to progress in first stage of the dilation. A failure to progress in second stage is not dealt with a cesarean. It's dealt with an episiotomy, a forceps delivery, or ventouse. But the second cause of a cesarean is women just not coping. And people don't want to see women suffer. So they'd rather get the baby out and have the birth over with. And therefore they have cesareans. Cesareans are done more safely than they were when we had them in the early 1970s. They're now bikini cuts, low-lying, that protects the uterus if we want to have a trial of labor afterwards. We're now awake rather than knocked out. So the cesarean sections now are easier, they're safer, and we're more involved. There's more effort for us to be engaged in having a cesarean. But the cesarean rate is 30%. And while Birthing Better families don't make any judgment about that because we just use our skills on the way to the hospital while being prepped and in surgery, because we know that 100% of us as pregnant women are going to do the activity of birthing our baby. It's as simple as that. 100% of pregnant women will do the activity of birthing their baby, no matter where they birth, who's present, or what happens to or around them. So we have a choice in society into how we deal with pregnancy and birth. And right now, we deal with pregnancy and birth as birth is something that happens in unexpected ways that we have no control of, or it's an event that we can plan via a birth plan. But there is no societal expectation that it's an activity, and we should be skilled to have the activity. And a lot of that messaging comes from women to women. It doesn't come from the obstetricians, doesn't come from anywhere in the medical profession. The medical profession doesn't have any judgment about our births. They're there to safeguard the health and well-being of ourselves and our babies. But it's the attitude of women toward each other and toward themselves, which now has given the message that a cesarean is not a birth. It's not a real birth, that the only real birth is actually one that's at home or in water. That even a hospital birth, if there's a lot of assessments or monitoring or procedures, those things that are called interventions, that's not a real birth. That women birthing in the hospital can't have a normal birth or a natural birth because they're in the hospital. Or they have tubes coming out of their holes or have different types of interventions to eventually have a birth. I've heard thousands of women say to me, I wanted a natural birth, but I got induced and therefore I couldn't have one. This is women talking to each other. We have to stop it. Okay, we just have to stop it. We have to realize that 100% of us as pregnant women will do the activity of birthing our baby. And that activity is best done if we have a great set of skills. And it's easy to get skills. Now, it's true that all of the childbirth preparation courses and skills-based courses, with the exception of Birthing Better, focus on trying to achieve a natural birth, a pain-free labor, and one free of medical care. So some of these things are truths and some of these aren't truths. First of all, it is natural to have a baby at the end of pregnancy. It's 100% natural. In fact, pregnancy ends normally with a birth, naturally with a birth, 100% of the time. Can we have a pain-free birth? Well, Ina May Gaskin in the 70s and 80s kept saying to people, don't call it a contraction, don't call it pain. Use the words like rush or wave. Whatever you do, if you perceive it as pain, it's pain. Doesn't matter. And is a birth without medical care anything that can take away from the fact that the labor continues to go on? No, it doesn't. So if we had skills, we could improve our ability to have a labor without a failure to progress, because we've learned to create space and open, be soft inside, and prepare our baby's birth canal. And we also learn birth and birth coaching skills so that we can work through the natural occurring pain of labor. So if we labor at home or in the hospital or a birth center, and we have very little or lots of medical care, our contraction, the next contraction is just going to come along. And how we cope and manage with it, how we work through that, is really the true essence of us as women doing the activity of birthing our baby. And if we understand that 100% of pregnant women's bodies are preparing to labor and have a vaginal birth, even if our mind knows that we're going to have a non-laboring cesarean, or even if we end up with an unplanned one, the fact is that we can thoroughly enjoy preparing our body for birth from 24 weeks onward. Why shouldn't we? How many times are we getting pregnant? Even if we're having 20 children, there are not a lot of those. So we want to tell you that what we've learned as birthing better families is that the birth of every family's baby is important to them. Every family wants to have a safe birth for themselves and for their baby. Everyone wants to have a positive birth. But what society isn't telling us, in other words, what we're not telling each other, is that giving birth or having a baby, which are very weak verbs, to give birth or have a baby, is not even closely related to the phrase, I have to do the activity of birthing my baby. So if everyone was saying that, I'm going to have a non-laboring cesarean, but I'm going to do the activity of birthing my baby, then you'd use your skills on the way to the hospital while being prepped and in surgery. Because in your societal mind, in the collective mind of the consciousness of the families and the friends and the society around you, they would be saying to you, you are doing the activity of birthing your baby, whether you birth your baby without laboring or by laboring, whether you birth your baby vaginally or whether you birth your baby after you've labored and then have a surgical birth. This is your baby's birth. No one can take that away from you. And no one should depress the pride and the joy, the anxiety and the fears that you might have during this activity. Because all of us have a range of emotions, but all of us are doing this activity. And it's essential that you understand that we as women have to stop bullying each other, because that really has become what it is. It's called the mummy wars, and that's a form of bullying of one another. Oh, my goodness, how does it start and where does it end? All the time I hear women say, I had a home birth. You read everything and ended up with a cesarean. Listen to the tone in the voice. We know it exists. Or, she was my home birth. He was my cesarean. Listen to the concept behind that. So the societal concept right now is valuing one type of birth and devaluing every other type of birth. And that comes from a long line of natural birth advocates and authors who basically were dismissive of the medical community, felt that the medical community was aggressive. It wasn't so much aggressive as that it standardized maternity care. In other words, everyone went in and had the same assessments, the same monitoring, the same procedures. And that's not a good thing. However, even if we had that, it would still be better if we were skilled, because birthing better skills developed when that was true. And we took these skills into every type of birth that we had. Why? We have to say it again and again and again, because the birth of our baby is important to us. And once we realize that we are going to do the activity of birthing our baby, and that there are skills that can help us do that activity, and skills that our partner can have to work with us through that activity, then we change our attitude. And changing our attitude means that we are changing our behaviors. And when we change our behaviors, then society begins to change both attitudes and behaviors. For any of you who have read Malcolm Gladwell's Tipping Point book, this is what it's all about. If you want to change how society views things, you change how you're thinking, you change what you say, and you change how you behave. It's as simple as that. We used to allow people to drink and drive. We stopped that. We used to allow children in car seats. We have children in cars without car seats or restraint. We've stopped that. And we did it because we changed our attitude. We changed how we explained it. And we changed the behaviors. And now we expect children to be safe by being in car seats or car restraints. We expect to be safe by being in a seatbelt. So we need to understand that when we become skilled as a society to birth our baby, we are increasing the safety of to our baby and to ourselves. We can reduce and prevent long, exhausting labors when we prepare our body realistically to create space for this big object that has to come down through and out, soften inside, which helps our baby to move down through and out, and use skills to cope and manage with any sensation that we feel internally or any of the things that externally are happening to us around us. So for all of you who have had a cesarean birth, or all of you who will have a cesarean birth, we hope that you'll use skills to birth your baby, because you will be more engaged, and we hope that your partner or other will help you do that. You don't have to be passive. You don't have to feel that just something is happening to you. And as women, we have to stop tearing each other down. We have to stop the mummy wars. We are all mummies. And how we live as a family and how we are as a mom, that's pretty much our business, although we would like to have some normality to it. In other words, our business shouldn't include beating the crap out of our children. Come on, right? And we need to really understand that the best that we can do, we do because we have skills. So if we're beating the crap out of our children, we lack skills. And it's not hard to get parenting skills any more than it's hard to get birthing skills. The difference is that with the birthing skills available now, with the exception of the birthing better skills, they are all focused on one type of birth. So it becomes this double bind, and it becomes the circular reasoning. So if you use these skills, you will achieve this type of birth. Too many women don't. But if you use the birthing better skills, you will achieve a positive birth because you'll be skilled and you'll use the skills to birth your baby no matter what. So we are a charitable trust in New Zealand. We house all the birthing better skills. So how can you support our efforts to grow a skilled birthing population? Donate to us through PayPal using info@birthingbetter.com. Share this video. Make certain that you stop the mommy wars in your family among friends. Make certain that everybody knows that every family's birth of their baby is important to them, and that we honor and respect the birth of everyone's baby. Use skills, comment, share this. Go to our YouTube channel, and you can have a playlist on the truths around childbirth as well as debunking the myths of childbirth. What we're trying to do now is to wake up society and to bring forward a new era and a new conversation in the childbirth conversation, because we're stuck right now. We have an ever-increasing cesarean rate. We have an ever-increasing rate of numbing ourselves via epidurals. We have an ever-increasing rate of TABS, or trauma after birth syndrome. We have an ever-increasing rate in a belief that women can no longer birth their babies. So first is, we're always birthing our baby, and second of all, we shouldn't be traumatized by birth because we can have skills to even work through the most challenging births. We're using pain relief because we don't have the skills to cope and manage, and we don't have partners or others who are helping us, and we are having more cesareans because we haven't prepared our bodies to let this big object out. And it's really as simple as that. So come along and become skilled. See you again tomorrow.